Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon.
Hi, Viola.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yes, I'm Isby. How to pronounce your name, Viola or Viola?
Viola.
Viola. Okay. Yes,
Yes.
Dr. Viola, nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for being my guest. Yes, you are now a co-host, so we can
Okay.
try to operate your presentation or share screen
Okay.
to check your screen.
Can you see it now?
Yes, clearly.
So like
Okay.
this it works, right?
Yes, it works.
You can also hear me clearly, so this is
Yes.
absolutely fine and easy.
Yeah, the audio is also clear.
Okay, thank you. So how
Yeah,
are you doing? Tell me more about this class.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Tell me more about the class that you are teaching, where this talk is part of.
Yeah. I'm teaching in the anthropology of globalization and anthropology of religion. So this is the part of the teaching. So yesterday we have Noah Salazar and uh, Zlatana for anthropology of tourism. So yeah, it is like apa namanya? Rangkaian. Yeah, part of visiting professor of anthropology of tourism. The big thing that is
And how many students are part of that class?
yeah, it is like 100. I
Oh,
think yes, it is very big in Indonesia. In the Ponorogo University is a very big mass of student in our faculty.
so this is a normal size.
Yes, it's normal size.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
yeah. It's
And they will all be online in 10 minutes.
pardon.
They were all attending online this course now.
Yes. They are
Wow.
attending online.
And is it always held online or only for the talks? Is it usually in person?
No, this is not a hybrid, just online session. And in part of class, yeah, one class is like 40 or 50 students, and we have to um, divide them into like two class or three classes. So yeah, it's very big.
I'm quite impressed.
Yeah, it is a very different maybe with the university in Europe or in America. So the student in the anthropology may be a little participant, but in Indonesia it's a big participants and they are interested in the anthropology maybe. So yeah,
And how was the talk yesterday with Noel Salazar?
yeah. But yesterday the internet connection in our university is some trouble. So yeah, I hope today there's no trouble in our event. Yeah, we have make sure everything is okay, everything is clear. So yeah, I think there's no trouble in our event now. We hope everything is okay. Yes.
And I mean, it's we cannot blame ourselves, right? It's the internet connection, which is a third party, so to say. So it happens or it
Yes.
doesn't happen that it's unstable.
Yeah.
We do our
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
a good session now.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's the internet is clear and no trouble at all.
Yes. And for how long have you been working at this university already?
Oh, I already working in here like 3 years. So I'm a
Oh,
junior lecturer. So yeah, this is before I'm being a lecturer, I'm a researcher. And
and
yeah,
who else
oh
do I see here already in the Zoom room?
yeah,
Padilla, Elvira, Vanya.
yeah, they are my student and also help me to conduct this visiting professor today. Yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself, Adia, as host today.
Okay,
Hello,
hi, Mrs.
everyone.
Viola.
Yeah.
I love your hair.
I hear that very often. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm the MC for today, the
The
host.
host.
And then
Hello.
Elda Vera, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay, hello, Mrs. Viola. I love your energy anyway. Okay, so yeah, okay, so let me introduce myself first. So my name is Vira and I'm here as Zoom admin. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Now I heard an echo. Maybe,
Okay,
maybe you repeat. Can you repeat, please? Because I was
Okay,
hearing an
am I audible or still echo? Okay, thank you.
because I switched off my mic. Maybe because of that. And when is your semester usually running? Because our semester just started this week. Teaching for me just started this week. How is it like for you?
Our
Oh, you
semester
cannot
has
hear me
started
anymore?
like February.
No, I couldn't hear you clearly.
I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah, our semester has started in February, and now we already done our midterms, so we're now just doing regular classes.
Okay. But do you also have something like semester break?
We do in June, July until August.
Okay, 3 months in what we would call summer over here in Germany.
Yeah, it's summer every day here in Indo.
I know, and I love it. I haven't been to Indonesia yet, but so many times to Malaysia and Singapore, and I'm really the tropical sun person. I cannot stand the winter in Germany.
Oh yeah, you definitely should go here.
Now more people are coming.
If you have to do something before the event, I think you can uh, finish your activity or anything else before we start at 1:30.
Which is 8:30 at my place, yes?
Oh, okay. Yeah. In my place, it's like 5 minutes.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So, do you make a short introduction, Ismi?
Yes, I will
Okay.
make a short
And
introduction,
then I
and
just start
Fadia
right
also.
away. So I can just start right away with my talk after that.
Yes, and there is some speech from our secretary program study of social anthropology in here before we start the talk.
And the secretary will talk after you or before you?
Before,
Okay.
yes. There's Mr. Arido Laksono. Yeah, we
You
can
can
wait
hear me,
him.
right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
You can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, maybe there's some trouble in my headset. So yeah, I have some alternative device.
I mean, can the others hear me clearly, or is it troublesome for you as well?
Saja bisa ya?
Yes, we can hear you, Miss Viola, but Miss Amy's headset is kind of troubled, but your voice is okay.
Good, thanks.
Hello, Mr. Arido.
Hi, it is me.
Yeah, this is our secretary at our study program, Social Anthropology, Mr. Arido Laksono.
Nice to meet you. Hello. From my side, a warm good
Hi,
morning.
nice to meet you, Professor Viola.
Yes.
Good morning. Great. What time is it there?
30.
8:30. Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, so I'm starting my day with this wonderful talk.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but the internet connection is a bit problem here. That it's like a lag here. But I can hear your voice.
So let's see how it goes. So if it gets too unstable in the meantime and you cannot hear me anymore or everything is frozen, then you have to interrupt me, please.
Okay, sure. I will tell you. But in the meantime, it's okay. Now I can hear you clearly, loud and clear. Great. So how is it there, Prof. Viola? Is it cold
How's my
there? How's the weather there? Is it cold there in this season? Is it cold or
It's
hot?
getting warm. Luckily, it's getting warm. It's like early summer. So at least
Oh, early
from noon,
summer. Okay.
yeah. And we have the
Okay.
sunshine.
Because right. Because I have some friends coming to Indonesia to do surfing in Watu Karang Pacitan, and they said that we come on May because the tide is good, and I thought, oh, maybe is it cold there in your country, but it's summer there. It's good there.
Well, at least for now, I know that next week it's getting more chilly again. So it starts to get warm.
Okay.
But in other years, in the month of May, it can be quite cold. So we are lucky this year that
Really?
yes.
Okay, great then.
So I
Oh,
understand that your
nice.
friends still come over to Indonesia in May.
It's very nice. I'm going to use another connection. I would like to try another one. Maybe it works better. Let me try first.
Okay. Oh, I really hope it works. Now I notice that not all of you can always hear me clearly, right?
Yes, me? I am back again.
So
Yang lag
I
ya,
hope
yang lag ya.
it's better now.
Like, is it freezing out there? Miss Ismi and Fadia, Vira? Freezing? It's good, normal. Okay. So my
Is it
connection is not
okay?
good then. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's only my connection. We are in the same separate room, but I don't know, the connection is not good in my place.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I hope it's good now. So, Professor Viola, it's very nice to see you here, even though it's online. Yeah, maybe someday you will come.
Hopefully, I hope so that I can join you in person at someday.
Yeah, nice.
I'm not too familiar with Indonesia yet, only with Malaysia and Singapore, so I still have to explore Indonesia.
Yeah, see, that's the reason then. You have to come.
Wow, so many people joining.
Yeah.
Sometimes I only have like 10 to 15 students in my classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which make it
Yeah,
quite
because,
intimate,
Prof.
actually. We can have intense discussions then.
Yeah, right, right, right. Here we have plenty of students, Prof. Viola.
Yeah, I'm really impressed.
Oh, we are going to start, I think, to begin. So let the committee and MC, begin your session, Prof.
All right.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Visiting Professor Lecture Series organized by the Department of Social Anthropology, Diponegoro University. It is truly an honor to have you all here today as we gather to explore the enriching field of anthropology of tourism. I am Fadia, and I will be your master of ceremony for today's session. Before we begin, let us express our deepest gratitude to our distinguished speaker who have graciously joined us today, Dr. Viola Sim from University of Erlangen-Nuremberg and University of Heidelberg. Thank you very much for being with us. To officially open today's event, we would first like to invite Mr. Arido Laksono M. Hum, Secretary of the Social Anthropology Study Program, to give his remarks. Mr. Arido, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. And especially thank you to Dr. Viola Tim from the Social and Cultural Anthropology at Heidelberg University. And she's a senior lecturer at the University of Erlangen-Nuremberg. And today we are very honored because we are going to learn something from her about tourism or pilgrimage. Well, this is quite a very, in a quote, provoking because in Indonesia, I think people, because we are here Muslim majority, so pilgrimage is one thing that they have to fulfill, they must fulfill in their journey for the spiritual journey. So I think it is going to be a very excited, interesting discussion, yeah, toward intersections of gender and consumption on umroh and ziarah in the Malaysian context. I think we can relate what happened in Malaysia and what happened in Indonesia, and maybe some friend here will share experiences, and maybe we can compare about the situation in your presentations and what we experience here. So I believe that this seminar will strengthen our mutual understandings toward not only culture, but also toward other aspects in life. Yeah, and also in terms of academic, it will also enhance the awareness of students and scholars all over the world to see perspective, something in a much broader area. And that today we have Professor Viola Tim. I think, it's a blessing for us. And I hope that it's going to be a very fruitful discussion, fruitful enlightenment for us, and also for those interested in this topic. So without further ado, please welcome our distinguished speaker of today. On behalf of the department, please welcome Professor Viola Tim. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Arido, for the inspiring words. Today's program will feature a keynote lecture delivered by our distinguished speaker, followed by a Q&A session. To guide the discussions throughout the event, we are honored to have Mbak Ismi Kumairah as our moderator. Now, we will proceed with the lecture. I would like to invite our moderator, Mbak Ismi, to lead the session and introduce our speaker. Dr. Mbak Ismi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Fadia, and thank you, the team. I will introduce yourself first. So today is a very great day. So we have a very special guest in our part of visiting professor about anthropology and tourism. And yes, Dr. Viola Tim is an associate professor of social and cultural anthropology at Heidelberg University and senior lecturer at the University of Erlangen-Nuremberg. She was awarded her habilitation and venia legally. Yeah, I hope my pronounce is correct in anthropology in 2021 with a professoral thesis on Muslim pilgrimage, gender, and consumption in Malaysia and Dubai. She received her doctoral degree in cultural anthropology by the University of Göttingen with a dissertation on gender and educational migration in Singapore and Malaysia. Dr. Tim has published 6 books. So yeah, maybe this is just a little bit of her published books and 3 single author monographs and 3 co-edited volumes on Islam, gender, and immobility, including Shopping with Allah, narrating intersectional perspective across social scales, and reclaiming body's gender configuration in Islam. So today, Dr. Pilgrim will present their about tourism or pilgrimage or both intersection and gender consumption on Umrah and Ziarah in the Malaysian context. Yes, this is a very, very intriguing issue because yeah, we have also a similar habit about Umrah and Ziarah in Indonesia. So Dr. Viola will talk about gender shopping practices among Muslim Malaysian women performing pilgrimage or Umrah, connected with Ziarah, which is understood here as part religious observance and part holiday and leisure to a multi-sided ethnographic study. And Malayan women from Malaysia especially choose Dubai as the destination for ziarah due to the possibilities for going shopping. Maybe in Indonesia, we can choose like Umrah Plus to go to Turkey, then to Dubai. Yes, they are particularly interested in purchasing the abaya, yeah, the dress, along black garment, which is usually worn by Arab women. Maybe it is like a gamis in Indonesia, in order to wear it themselves to give it as gift or for others to dress. So I think it is it's not only about commodification of religion issue, I think, but also about embodiment or like politics of piety, like Alila Abu Dubut said. So yeah, I think we can start the presentation of Dr. Viola. Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fadia, Dr. Arido, and Dr. Ismi for this very, very kind introduction of these words. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for this wonderful invitation. And I look forward to the talk. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. I'm gonna share my screen. I think you can see it, right? You can see it and you can hear me. Oh,
yes, we can see it.
This is the first slide. Okay, so I get started. Why do women from Malaysia want to make a touristic stopover in Dubai on their Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca? Usually people in Malaysia say, well, that's totally clear why. Because I want to go shopping there. I mean, we all know the bombastic architecture, expensive shopping malls, and luxury hotels. Yes, the female Muslim pilgrims from Malaysia want to go to Dubai to shop. How can shopping and tourism be integrated into the religious travel? Some Islamic authorities in Malaysia say that the religious journey cannot. Oh, I heard some background, but maybe that was just by accident. Some Islamic authorities in Malaysia say that the religious journey and consumption cannot be brought together. The Muslim pilgrims of my study do not raise such questions at all. What they shop is not only an expression of materialistic consumption. They purchase the abaya, which is a long black Arabic dress, which you can see here. For them, some abayas have the meaning of a simultaneously modern, sexy, and religious garment. In general, shopping itself can be an act of worship, no matter whether the purchased goods are religious items such as the abaya or not. The contradiction between hedonistic consumption and morally saturated pilgrimage doesn't exist for them. Hence, the women from Malaysia of my study want to make a touristic stopover in Dubai on their pilgrimage journey to Mecca in order to shop a garment which is part of spiritual consumption. Today, I will address forms of touristic travel, spiritual pilgrimage, consumption, and gift-giving in the context of Muslim pilgrimage by presenting gendered shopping practices by Malaysian women being on a certain form of Muslim travel, which is Umrah dan Ziarah Dubai. At this point, I would like to thank Ismi Kumairu again, Dr. Ismi, who invited me to this study program of the anthropology of tourism. And of course, I warmly welcome all of you here. What I present today is part of my last research project that lasted from 2017 to 2021, which I conducted at the Institute of Anthropology at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. It was published in 2023 as an ethnography entitled Shopping with Allah, Muslim Pilgrimage, Gender and Consumption in a Globalized World. In what follows, I will briefly address the state of research on pilgrimage, gender, and touristic consumption. I will then give some information on my methodology and then provide an overview of Muslim pilgrimage and travel, as well as on social, cultural, and religious background information with regard to Malaysia. Many things will be familiar for you from your Indonesian perspective, I'm sure, but some things might be culturally specific to the Malaysian context and can differ from what you experience in Indonesia. I will then deal with gendered habits of touristic shopping, consumption, and gift-giving, and practices of clothing in the context of the Umrah dan Ziarah journey. I'm happy to receive your comments and questions at the end. Let us begin with the current state of research. This ethnographic study is positioned within the growing literature in the social sciences and humanities on travel and transnational mobility, particularly in those of a religious and spiritual nature. It adds to the strands of literature which deal with either pilgrimage and gender or with pilgrimage and touristic consumption by focusing on gendered habits of travel, consumption, and gift-giving by Muslim Malaysian women on their religious journey to Mecca and Medina, but having a stopover in Dubai. Most studies on pilgrimage and gender deal with Christian pilgrimage, and this gets primarily located in Europe. The few existing studies on Muslim pilgrimage and gender show rich insights into gendered practices of different Muslim pilgrimage, but either lack a transnational mobility lens or an investigation of Muslim pilgrimage using a theoretical gender optic. The strand of research dealing with pilgrimage and touristic consumption increases since the last decade through anthropological, geographical, and tourism-focused research. With a view to European as well as non-European countries, these studies examine how religious groups influence consumption-oriented markets. These markets make an establishment of pilgrimage possible and successful. The majority of these studies, however, neglect the examination of a specific religion and therewith religiously shaped differences between Muslim, Christian, or Jewish pilgrimage. Some studies based in cultural sciences, however, deal with Islam in connection to travel and consumption, mostly specified by the keyword Islamic tourism or halal tourism. These works touch issues of commercialization and commodification of religious travel, but usually lack the analytical selectivity when it comes to different forms of Muslim pilgrimage or travel, which are the Hajj, the Umrah, and the Ziyarah. This study complements previous research on travel, religion, and gender in the context of consuming practices on the one hand. On the other, it merges the two strands of firstly Muslim pilgrimage and gender, and secondly touristic travel and consumption with an ethnographic analysis from Malaysia. In the talk today, the following research questions are addressed as already raised in my introduction. Which role does gender identification play for the travel route, and how does this in turn relate to pilgrimage and tourism on the journey? What significance do practices of shopping have for Malaysian women on pilgrimage with a stopover in Dubai? The context of this study is a religious journey from Malaysia to Mecca, Umrah dan Ziarah Dubai in Malaysia. My research design followed the principle of multi-sided ethnography, which means that I collected data in Malaysia as well as on the Arabian Peninsula, in the United Arab Emirates, and in Oman. During my 15 months of ethnographic fieldwork between 2013 and 2018, I conducted interviews and did participant observation on various occasions. I met my Malaysian respondents in Malaysia already in Dubai back in 2014 on their Umrah and Ziyarah trip there. In 2017, during fieldwork in Malaysia, which was 3 years after their journey, I had the possibility to talk to them back home in Malaysia about their experiences of their journey. I furthermore interviewed Muslim Malay Umrah or Umrah and Ziyarah travelers who do explicitly not choose Dubai as their destination to get their contrasting view on this journey. I additionally interviewed travel agents who offer Umrah dan Ziyarah Dubai packages. In Dubai, I followed Malaysian Umrah dan Ziyarah groups in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And I also interviewed travel agents and tour guides who deal with Malaysian Umrah dan Ziyarah travelers. In total, I have conducted 277 qualitative interviews with 217 persons for this project, plus participant observation field notes. All right. I will now come to background information on Muslim travel and mobility in Malaysia. What does Umrah and Ziyarah mean in the local context? As you might know, Malaysia is a multicultural and multi-religious country with 65% of Muslim Malays, 26% Buddhist or Christian Chinese, and 7% Hindu or Muslim Indians. Muslim Malays perform 3 forms of religious travel, which many of you know better than I do: Hajj, Umrah, and Ziyarah. Hajj, the most meaningful pilgrimage and Umrah, the so-called small pilgrimage, a journey undertaken to the holy places in Saudi Arabia. As the fifth pillar of Islam. Umrah, as you know, is not compulsory in contrast to the Hajj. And the Umrah does not take the place of the Hajj, no matter how often it is repeated during lifetime. Ziarah, I know that it's different understood in Malaysia than in Indonesia, is the third form of Muslim travel and derives from the Arabian term for visit. It can mean any form of social visit, but in combination with an Umrah trip, it is always meant to be a religious form of visit for my Malaysian respondents. In this sense, and in more general terms, it is mainly practiced through visiting graves of saints and does not necessarily lead to the Arabian Peninsula, but implies a visit to shrines or graves of local saints. For the Southeast Asian context, the sole form of ziarah, which in the literature is usually termed as a form of pilgrimage, but not for the Malaysian context, has been extensively described for the context of Indonesia. Ziarah kubur is a very common thing in Indonesia, but not at all in Malaysia. This is really a difference here. It's even heavily discouraged to do by the Malaysian authorities. Most strikingly, going on a ziarah trip has not been researched for the majority of Sunni Muslims in Malaysia, which might be the case because of the state's rejection and the now widespread rejection of practicing ziarah in Malaysia. Interestingly, a particular form of ziarah has been developed in Malaysia, which is at the heart of this study. Travel agencies in Malaysia offer Umrah journeys which are connected with ziarah, which is currently understood here as a part of holiday and leisure. The ziarah part of the religious journey gets increasingly connected with tourism and consumerism. Travel agencies offer trips such as Umrah and Ziarah Dubai, which is the package My Respondents book, but also Umrah and Ziarah Istanbul, Umrah and Ziarah Jordan, or Umrah and Ziarah Paris, and Umrah and Ziarah London, for example. This form of ziarah developed in the 1980s when the infrastructure in the travel industry began to grow. Due to transit time on the way to Umrah, travel agencies started to create tours through the places where transit took place. To make it suitable for the religious travelers, they started to term these tours as ziarah. The travel industry incorporated this religious concept into their market and as therewith commercialized it until today. Global tourism, as part of the market-driven economy, is heavily regulated on local, national, and global levels, and this affects the pilgrimage as a segment of this market of transnational mobility. Let's come back to the travel routes, to the travel options. Jordan, Paris, or London are not ziarah options for my respondents. The geographical places of the Arabian Peninsula in general, which implies the UAE, United Arab Emirates, with Dubai, and Mecca and Medina in particular, are the desired destinies my respondents want to travel to. This is embedded into mapping the Muslim world according to notions of Islam and spirituality. In my research context, this is undertaken by localizing the Arabian Peninsula in general and Mecca and Medina in particular as an Islamic spiritual center. The reason to understand the Arabian Peninsula as the Islamic center is its historical background as cradle of Islam. As part of this imaginary, Mecca is the center of the Muslim world. Beyond Mecca and Medina, the Arabian Peninsula as a whole, together with today's Palestine and Jerusalem, is included into the notions of an Islamic center, since the incidents narrated about in the Quran, as all of you know, are located throughout this whole region. Within the Muslim mapping of the world, Muslims in Asia are positioned themselves at the margins of these sacred landscapes. Hence, undertaking a stopover in Dubai on the way to pilgrimage in Mecca as a Malaysian is to be understood as embedded into the processes of placemaking and meaning-making of these places. The Umrah and Ziarah Dubai journey starts in a place which stands for a modern Islam, which is Malaysia, goes further to a modern but spiritual place, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and ends up in the Islamic spiritual heart, Mecca and Medina. So Ziarah takes place in Dubai as a modern yet spiritual place and is particularly regarded as a Muslim touristic shopping paradise. I argue that this Muslim touristic shopping paradise is a gendered shopping paradise with repercussions for gendered mobility. More precisely, the Umrah dan Ziarah travel route is female. Let me briefly illustrate this. Without being asked about the gender aspect, a female manager from one of the travel agencies in Malaysia's capital, which offer Umrah and Ziarah trips to Dubai, mentioned that Muslim Malaysian women wish their Umrah journey to include consumption, leisure, and tourism in Dubai, whereas the men who accompanied them just follow. Referring to the women's reasons for choosing Dubai, the manager said, quote, "Women are most excited about Dubai. The tour leaders go to the shopping places. They do more sightseeing. The buildings, which are awesome, because it's modern. The buildings, the shopping places. Women, they like to go to the gold souk. Lots of them go there. Or they buy the abaya, like the one I'm wearing now," said the manager. "They are beautiful there, and they are quite cheap there." End of quote. In fact, from what I observed and from what most of the pilgrims told me, Malay women from Malaysia are primarily interested in tourism, that is in shopping and sightseeing in Dubai. Most strikingly, their interest was not in shopping in general, but especially in purchasing exactly the abaya, as the manager mentioned. Latifa, a woman in her 40s from Shah Alam, the capital of the state of Selangor in Malaysia and owner of a travel agency, went for Umrah dan Ziarah in Dubai in 2014 and told me about her ambitions in Dubai during the trip. She said, "We are doing the city tour because everybody likes to see new things, right? Umrah was already great. We had no problems there. Now we are going to Burj Dubai, Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, and we want to go shopping, to shop for the abaya." End of quote. As the manager said, the men just follow these female pilgrims. They don't have any particular interest in Dubai as the place for a ziarah stopover. Okay, I would like to give you now some background information about the entanglement between tourism, consumerism, mobility, Islam, and gender in Malaysia. Please remember the cultural and religious diversity I mentioned. The Malaysian society comprises of Malays, Chinese, and Indians. Despite this cultural diversity, the Malaysian government has legitimated a cultural Malay supremacy since independence. And this supremacy is linked to religion, as Sunni Islam has been established as the compulsory religions for the Malay Malaysians by constitution. And this supremacy of Muslim Malays, in turn, has been linked to class, as the government induced positive economic transformations of the Malay Malaysian population. Malay Malaysian women have especially benefited from these policies of so-called neoliberal multiculturalism, as Daniel Goh and Philip Holden put it. The reasons for women to benefit from these policies were wide-ranging. The economic transformations implied access to formal education and the labor market, and these were now applicable as much for women as for men. In the course of the transformed economic policies, the salaries of wives and daughters were regarded as necessary for a higher standard of living. Moreover, on the national level, the state needed every potential labor force for economic upturn. Being classified as a cheap labor force, women were more sought after than men. In addition, these economic policies were embedded in state policies of modernization, which consider democracy as broadened scopes of action for women. Hence, the social mobility of women has been developed to be a matter supported by state politicians, by which they can present Malaysia as a modern state in domestic and foreign policy. As we have seen, the economic growth during the last 4 decades in the urban centers of Malaysia has led to an enormous increase in female social mobility. However, these developments are mainly applicable to women of the Malay population and less for women of so-called native Chinese or Indian descent in Malaysia. And in the course of this, a new Malaysian middle class has evolved. And this Muslim Malay female middle class can nowadays afford journeys to the Arabian Peninsula, and especially religious and touristic journeys is what they long for. Why? What has given meaning and identity to the new local Malay middle class in the 1970s is a deep belief in Islam, as you know, which developed in the context of a revivalist movement. And this in turn touches female clothing and embodiment, which is interesting when considering the abaya as a sought-after object my female respondents want to get. So what exactly characterizes an abaya? The abaya is a closed black garment for women made of flowing nylon or polyester. It is originally worn over a long-sleeved and long-legged set of clothes so that it covers these clothes completely. The abaya is worn especially by women in Arab countries. Muslim Malaysian women have appropriated this clothing item increasingly since 2012. And from what I know from the Indonesian context, it has been appropriated there in your country over the past years as well. In order to contextualize allocations of meaning to the abaya in Malaysia, the role of the abaya on the Arabian Peninsula is of further interest. In Arab countries, women have worn the abaya in public space only since the 1990s. In the 1970s, different strands of a conservative Islam developed in Arab countries. Since this phase, the abaya functions as a symbol for religiosity and symbolizes modesty of women. This is, according to the corresponding interpretation of the Quran, important in order to reduce social interaction between women and men. The abaya gets transformed at the end of the 1990s. Ever since, some women on the Arabian Peninsula have begun to wear decorated abayas. These are embroidered, endowed with colorful sequins or decorated with other applications. And it's also worn in a modified fit, which is not generally loose anymore, but can also accentuate the figure. It has become a fashion item. Against this backdrop, and additionally in alignment with its spatial origin, a term I borrow from Ruben Gillies, which is modern yet spiritual Dubai, as mentioned before. My respondents perceive the abaya as modern and religious. Why are they eager to purchase an abaya in Dubai on the pilgrimage journey, besides getting a pretty clothing item? An important further element why these women get the abaya on their pilgrimage trip is their expression of a transformed inner disposition. On the basis of their pilgrimage experience, respondents become more involved into their belief in Islam. I asked my respondent Sharifa whether the pilgrimage changed or affected her life. She said, yes, it changed my life. After coming back from Umrah, I'm more religious. I get nearer to my Creator. I changed because I had the possibility to perform Umrah. I'm so grateful for it. So I didn't want to be the same as before. I want to increase my Iman. This personal transformation through pilgrimage is mainly adhered by means of practical actions. Most of the women began to wear additional or different clothing items than before, such as the abaya. For example, Rabwa said, "I have been wearing the abaya only since the pilgrimage, after my Hajj. When you come back from Hajj and you get out of the plane back home, people expect that you cover yourself because you are a Hajjah. The abaya is the most convenient way to do so." Spirituality achieved through Umrah is supposed to be shown to other people. Being spiritual through Umrah means to be humble and to dedicate oneself predominantly to God. And the abaya for my respondents is the adequate means to create this. However, the abaya as a religious garment is still embedded into touristic and consumerist shopping activities. In this sense, dress codes become part of consuming practices. According to Mary Douglas, consumption can be understood as a form of communication and touches on questions of identity. Consuming practices and the way to dress are part of an entangled web of meaning making. So not the activity of buying an abaya. So the material consumption itself is of interest, but the reasons for this buying. Mawar, a 64-year-old Malaysian from KL, interpreted the abaya as a garment for young and beautiful women and was one of the few women who did not imagine herself wearing it. She said, "In Dubai in 2014, I quote, I don't wear the abaya myself. I prefer to wear the juba, which is a Malaysian one-piece dress, because the abaya is for young, sexy, and slim women. The abaya is for going out in the evenings or something like that." 3 years later, she specified, I quote, "The abayas from Dubai are too luxe to luxury. They have the shiny ones there. That's why I don't wear it myself." In a similar vein, Latifa regarded the abaya from Dubai as a tight and pretty clothing. She told me in Dubai, "In abaya, you can see the women's shape. That's modern. Everyone wants to look pretty, right?" We can see that the fashionable dress from Dubai is a modern dress. Back home in Malaysia, the travelers wear the fashionable abayas from Dubai for outings in the evening, for weddings or religious festivities in the workplace. Until 2016, moderate Muslims, which is their self-description, had been furthermore wearing the abaya much more in everyday life than nowadays, for example, in the office. My respondent Fatima, who works at the government-linked corporation, recalled, "I do have a couple of abayas at home, but I was reading this article once. In a corporate world, it is not advisable to wear abaya. So since I've read this article, I thought, okay, then maybe I stop wearing it at work." This trend to wear the abaya at work decreased after public debates and announcements by religious authorities came up, so that currently the fashionable yet religious abaya is worn for special occasions only. The debates and announcements followed two arguments. First, the abaya is regarded as an Arab dress, and the traditional Malay baju kurung gets marginalized as a broader form of Arabization in the country. Second, the fashionable abayas are not Sharia compliant as they accentuate women's body shape, for example. Okay, coming back to the purchase of the female clothing item in Mecca and Medina, shopping the abaya leads us to the entanglements between gender, consumption, tourism, and religion. Even though the abaya from Dubai is considered to be fashionable and modern, it is still a religiously saturated garment. And it is religiously saturated to such a degree that even the process of shopping it and of giving it as a gift can be a spiritual act. My respondent Farah told me, I quote, shopping is a ziyarah in this context, religious related, and can be an ibadah. Because once you shop, once you want to give charity, that is also an ibadah. I can give an abaya to a friend. If she goes to Umrah and she wears it indirectly, I also get the barakah. We can see that Farah connects shopping with giving, with submission to Allah, and with the reception of Allah's blessing. Allah shops along, as the title of my correspondent book says. What Farah did not mention here, but in another interview, is that shopping and giving can also produce pahala. Pahala are the rewards Muslims believe to gain for everyday life good activities. However, whether or not the act of shopping and gift giving can invite barakah or pahala depends on three things. First, on the intention, which is the niyat, as you might know, and the sincerity, which is ikhlas, and the one who gives it. Second, on the one who receives the gift, that is, whether it is useful for them and whether they really uses it. And third, on the item itself. In this case, which is related to the abaya, it must be according to Islamic rules and regulations, which means that it must be loose and cover the awrat. On the contrary, if someone gives a super fashionable abaya, which is too shapy or too transparent as a gift, which could rather mean that the intention is to dress up and to produce a feeling such as, I'm feeling better than you, I'm more pretty, and so on, then the intention is bad, and it is unlikely that the garment itself is Sharia compliant. As my respondent Ramli put it, for example, ikhlas is the most important thing. Only then we get the pahala. But if for fashion only, then no pahala. This means that those super fashionable abayas that can also be shopped in Dubai, besides the Sharia compliant ones, cannot invite barakah or pahala. I want to get a little bit deeper into the process of spiritual gift giving. In order to understand this entanglement between Islam and consumption further, I want to give you some background information about the culture of gift giving in Malaysia. For which occasions do people get something and transform it into a gift? What do they do as gifts, and how does this relate to gender in the local context? What are the different implications of the Malay terms of buah tangan, hadiah, cendera hati, or even hantaran and anugerah, which in English are all translated as gift with the same word, right? Buah tangan is something small, people bring to other people they are rather close to. If they don't want to come empty-handed to their house, for example. Hadiah is something wrapped and can be given to just anybody. Cendera hati is the same, but has some more value compared to the hadiah. My respondents mostly term the gifts they bring back from Umrah and Ziarah Dubai as buah tangan. In this context, it can be translated as a souvenir. Bringing back a souvenir from abroad, no matter whether from touristic holiday or from a spiritual journey, is very much part of Malay culture, as the whole culture of buah tangan is. Contrastingly, giving a hadiah for someone's birthday or wedding does not have a long tradition in Malay culture, but only developed maybe in the 60s. Bringing homemade food, for example, was previously much more common for a birthday, if birthday was celebrated at all. The bride for weddings, for example, the bride and the groom will exchange hantaran as gifts. Strikingly, these forms of Malay exchange have been more or less gender neutral. That is, women and men have been equally involved as a gifter and giftee and in the type of gifts. Comparing these different forms of gift giving in Malay culture, we can additionally see that consuming certain religious goods on the Umrah and Ziarah journey as souvenirs and giving them to relatives, friends, or colleagues as gifts is nothing specifically related to Dubai as a so-called shopping paradise or to Mecca, which has always been a trading hub. It has rather been an inherently part of Malay culture. In that sense, the way my respondents do so-called Islamic consumption, as cultural anthropologist Johann Fischer puts it, on Umrah and Ziyarah Dubai, is rooted in Malay forms of gift giving, as well as in gift giving as a spiritual act. So which role does the abaya play in this regard? The abaya is not only worn by those who bring it back from the pilgrimage trip in Malaysia, but my respondents also give it as a signature gift to their close relatives and friends. It is meant to be a souvenir in this case. They call it buah tangan or cenderahati, depending on the meaning they assign to it. To give a souvenir, in turn, relates to the social status of the female pilgrim back home. Erin Kenny points out in her article, Gifting Mecca, that keepsakes from the Holy Land represent spiritual capital that grows through pilgrimage for the pilgrim. Spiritual capital is, according to Kenny, who relies on Bourdieu here, I quote, the prestige and status possessed by a person within a cultural structure. End of quote. This prestige and status developed through the ritual of pilgrimage. The spiritual capital is important to show for pilgrims via their mementos because it, quoting Kenny, allows for the enhancement of personal status, especially with regard to piety, and alters the way an individual may be regarded by others. Unquote. The souvenirs from pilgrimage mark the prestige appropriated through pilgrims and therewith a higher spiritual status the pilgrim adopted. In the case where the returned gift, the souvenir, was given to people who have not performed pilgrimage themselves, it especially highlights a higher status over them and therewith a hierarchical relationship. The spiritual religious capital is ad infinitum part of the souvenir because the spiritual presence of the person who gave the gift resides in it. In this case, it resides within the abaya. So when my respondents, Latipa, Fatima, or Farah, whom I already introduced to you, bring back value-laden souvenirs such as an abaya to other people back home in Malaysia, they also transmit their own experiences of the trip to those people. The experiences, the performance of pilgrimage, are commonly understood by my respondents as leading to a spiritually enhanced inner stance. Please let me bring the different arguments I've made so far in this talk at this point together. To remind you, first, Muslim mobility is female. Second, touristic shopping can be an act of worship. Third, giving shopped souvenirs to others back home can be a spiritual act too. Fourth, giving a religiously saturated item enhances the giver's spiritual social position. That is, they gain spiritual capital. By bringing all this together, I argue the following. Gift exchange is deeply rooted in Malay cultural orders and practices. Traditionally, it has been performed similarly in terms of the quantity and quality of the gifts between a woman or a man. Yet, under the social, cultural, and political conditions of capitalism, getting a gift has been partly understood as shopping for a gift. This shopping activity has been incorporated into the idea of tourism on consumption. This transformation is parallel to a development that the gender equality of Muslim-Malay gift exchange has turned into a gendered, namely a female activity. In this research, in fact, males do not shop for anything particular on the consuming part of the religious journey, but females are eager to go shopping for female items, which are the abaya. This means that since shopping is nothing male, the potential spirituality of shopping is not applicable to a circumstance here that could be spiritual. Consequently, the spiritual situation here is only applicable to Muslim females. Thus, gift giving in the context of this study can be spiritual, but it is gender neutral. Touristic shopping can be spiritual, but shopping is female. The intersectional situation of female spiritual shopping allows women of this research to enhance their spiritual stance and to gain spiritual capital on the pilgrimage journey that is not accessible to males, particularly embodied by using the abaya. I will now close this talk with a conclusion. My research findings show that performing religious mobility in the Malaysian context is a highly gendered matter. Umrah dan Ziarah Dubai is a spiritual and geographical journey that especially the females of my study want to undertake. On this journey, Umrah is the spiritual part of the pilgrimage in Mecca, and Ziarah is a rather touristic part in Dubai. Dubai is the Malaysian female's destiny, primarily because of the Arab abaya. They can easily shop there. This leads us to gendered and spiritual consumption. The consumption is gendered because the females shop their sought-after gendered souvenirs, namely the female abaya, whereas males are not interested in doing anything particular in Dubai. The consumption is spiritual because when a Muslim gives something to someone in order to make this person happy with a suitable and Sharia-compliant item, it means, in this case, to shop in order to make people happy. And this is how shopping becomes a spiritual activity. On a more general level, we can see that the Muslim travelers from Malaysia consider purchasing and consuming practices to be activities intrinsic to their religious journey, even a sine qua non in the case of the abaya purchased in Dubai and bringing it back home to Malaysia. This is deeply rooted in Malay traditions of gift giving. The purchase of the different attire on the pilgrimage journey has been developed from a gender-neutral activity to a female consuming and spiritual gift-giving experience that potentially empowers women and girls. Hence, on the basis of the experienced trans-regional connection between Malaysia and the Arabian Peninsula, these women challenge social conditions through their mobile journey. And I now thank you very much and look forward to your comments and questions. And I think to compare and to relate tourism and pilgrimage practices in Malaysia with the ones you know from Indonesia can be especially interesting. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Viola, for your talk. And then if I may respond to your presentation, I think this pilgrimage and abaya issue reminds me about Sabah Mahmud's ethnography of Egyptian Muslim women that women's parity movement in Cairo during the 80s. Like instead of women's obedience being regarded as false consciousness or symbol of submissive, Mahmoud saw that Egyptian Muslim women doing high self-cultivation, that's her term, like wear hijab, doing shalat, being a salihah or obedience wife, same as take umrah or hajj, and wear abaya as a part of their agency. So like agency is not only about being rebellious or freedomness, but also being piety for some women, especially in the East, because there are differences about meaning of freedom between the Occidentalists and the Orientalists. This is also what I saw in my thesis research about a group of Muslimah in Bandung, in West Java, who felt that their long veil or their chadar was a way of expressing of their subjectivity or spiritual journey. And I also take a note from Dr. Viola's presentation is how women feel empowered from their ability to connect with the global world through pilgrimage to Mecca and Dubai, symbolized by shopping and wearing abaya. Yeah, I think they want to dismiss themselves as part of Muslim revivalists from abangan, like a kids term, or other local belief or religion in Malaysia. So they need to dismiss themselves as a sign that they are more civilized or more modern than the others. So I think it is about enhance their social capital or about to enhance their status and then their class to the public, not just about consumption activities or like commodification of religion. So abaya also be interpreted as a form of independence of women because I think in your presentation that women as a career woman, so they have to wear abaya also, like in Iran, I think. But yeah, there are some paradoxes and a different perspective from older women who said that abaya is too sexy or too transparent. So I think there is no one universal meaning of abaya in the eyes of Malay Muslimah. It really depends on the experience of any person. Yeah, that's all. And if anyone has any question, please feel free to ask. You can raise your hand or text in the chat column. So everybody, okay. From Jasmine Azalia. Yes, you can talk. Jasmine.
Hello, there was a question by, what's the name? Jasmine Azila?
Hello, Jasmine. Oh, okay. So wait.
So maybe we wait and take another question first, or?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Jasmine. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine, and I have some question based on your presentation. First of all, I'm so sorry I can turn on my camera because I'm at work.
Okay.
I'm really interested in the way some women prefer the abaya while others choose the jubah, with reasons tied to fashion, age, or body image. How do these common choices reflect the influence of global trends on local gender norms among Malaysian women? And I noticed that one woman in your presentation mentioned that giving an abaya as a gift would bring blessing. Thank you.
Thanks for your question and the keywords you're raising. Indeed, when you bring the keyword embodiment here, when we talk about who prefers the abaya rather than the juba, in fact, I would say it has to do with the generation of the women who prefer the abaya rather than the juba. I heard more often from women of the elder generation, from 60 years on and above, that they maybe because they find it too modern, but maybe also, as you correctly hinted at, the abaya symbolizes as a fashion item too much of independence, maybe, of claiming a position, a visible position in society, and so on. And the women of the elder generation when they prefer the juba, they embody the more traditional position of Malay women in Malaysian culture, right? Because the juba, the color juba, has always been worn by Malay women in Malaysia. But really the black abaya, which already stands out with the color and is so visible because of the color against the background of the very colorful baju kurung and juba and so on, they really claim their position as spiritual and modern women. And this is this, of course, has to do with aspirations of traveling gender norms, as you said, aspirations to be a visible, independent woman. Your other question or comment related to giving a gift that it can bring blessings. I didn't really understand where the question is here. Is it to clarify again how it can bring blessings?
How do you see gift giving during or after pilgrimage as part of religious practice, especially for women? Is it more generosity, maybe also a way to extend their spiritual experience to others?
Yes, definitely. Because when they gift the abaya as a gift, not just as here, I have something for you, but really in the sense of I appreciate you and I want to give you a gift that comes from a meaningful land, from a meaningful holy land, holy place, which is Mecca or Medina, then it is religiously saturated because the niyat is there to bring something meaningful for the other person. And it's sincere to do so. So ikhlas is also there. And but the abaya must still be Sharia compliant. So if it's too slim, too transparent or whatever, then it will not, the act of gift giving will not be religiously saturated. So it really depends on these factors, that the object, which is the abaya, the intention of the giver, and that it's meaningful for those who receive it. These are the criteria that giving a gift can be religiously related.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question from Epe. I think Epe raised hand.
Okay. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Alisa Biza Petrani. I do want to ask because nowadays I'm seeing where Umrah and Ziara got commercialized. Still, the middle class can reach those things. So, in what way does religious travel serve as a site for negotiating modernity, spirituality, and social status among middle class Muslims in Southeast Asia? Since um, Ms. Fiola was talking about ziarah context in Malaysian.
So it's a little bit difficult through this online format to really follow very well. So the question is how class can transform the religious travel. Did I understand it correct? Or could you please repeat it in a slower tone?
Hello, Epe. Okay.
Or somebody else can repeat it for me in a slower tone or write it in the chat? Because it was a long question and I couldn't really follow. Yes, please write it in the chat, then it's maybe easier for me.
Okay, yeah, Ever would write it. Maybe we can move to another question because Ever wants to write the question first. We can move to Rifka Pratama, maybe in the chat column. In various regions across Indonesia, there has been a recurring emergence of tourist destination imbued with spiritual or religious significance. Within the Islamic context, it appears that some of these sites may be understood as socio-cultural responses to the economic limitation faced by segments of the population, which hindered their ability to undertake the pilgrimage to Mecca. From an anthropological theoretical perspective, how might this phenomenon be interpreted? What kind of cultural or religious dynamics are at play in this context? Yeah.
This is interesting. So I understand that these local places emerge as more or less as an alternative, maybe, to travel to Mecca because of the financial situation is getting worse. And I mean, my area of specialization is Malaysia, right? But from I know when I compare Malaysia and Indonesia is that visiting the graves of local saints, for example, is very much rooted and widespread in the society. And this is really different to Malaysia, where the government highly discourages local people to visit these graves. In Malaysia, they are called keramat graves. I don't know whether it's similar in Indonesia. Because in Malaysia, they say there are also so many Hindu Indians there, and they don't comply with the Islamic norms. And so we can see that really orthodoxy is getting crystallized here. And so they discourage the population to visit these local saint graves in order to not do anything wrong according to Islamic understanding. And I mean, in Indonesia, when it's so deeply much more rooted in society, then I can imagine that, I mean, the case is different, that when people go there more often than before, that it emerges more often than before, that especially when it comes to the consumption aspect, as the question asks for, that of course it can be an alternative in the sense of let's figure out practices that are on a practical level doable for us. And it is possible to do so because of the social cultural context. This would not be possible in the Malaysian context. And another difference would be the Malaysian middle class was rising so much that they can afford more and more these religious journeys to Mecca and Medina. When you say in Indonesia they can less afford it, then of course I can also interpret it as an alternative as you suggest. So actually it would be a good research question for another research project for the Indonesian context, because I can only tell for sure how this works in the Malaysian one. Okay, we have
Okay, yes, yeah, it is a very nice question because in Indonesia, people who have to take a Hajj have to queue, or if you have to cut the queue or line, you have to have a lot of money. So it is a very economical issue. So it means that people with a lack of money or have a difficulty in financial issue, so the possibilities to upwards mobilities from take a Hajj or pilgrimage is a very little because it's very different condition between Malaysia and Indonesia. Maybe I don't know if Malaysia have to queue to take a Hajj or like in Indonesia we have to take a queue, very very long queue. Maybe if we are like in the age of 60, so we have gained the possibilities to take Hajj. Yeah, it's a very long queue.
This is the same in Malaysia, this very, very long queue for Hajj, which gets longer and longer. And that's why Umrah, going on Umrah is the alternative then. In Malaysia, the alternative is not to visit these so-called keramat graves or the graves of local saints because it's so discouraged and so disciplined. Some of these graves are even destroyed by the government. So to cut the queue is also a possibility, as you said, to be super rich and so on, or to go on Umrah. And this is what the middle class, what many of my middle class respondents do as the alternative. And then it would be interesting to know, as compared to Indonesia, is the economic situation so much worse than in Malaysia that they cannot even take Umrah plus as an alternative, and that's why they need to take the local Ziarah saints' graves as an alternative.
Yeah, in the nowadays economic condition is very difficult to take Umrah plus inflation and another issue. So yeah, we have to move to another question from Epe. Okay, Epe. Oh. In what ways does religious travel serve as a site for negotiating unity, spirituality, and social status among middle-class Muslim in Southeast Asia, or maybe in Malaysian context?
Yes, thanks for this question. It is actually a big side to negotiate this modernity and spirituality and also social status, because I mean, as you know, the pilgrimage is so important for the Muslim population, right? That it's not by accident that the pilgrimage journey is the site where all this gets negotiated, but it is exactly the pilgrimage, because the pilgrimage is so crucial and also so much politicized in the regional context, right? And modernity here plays a big role when it comes to the act of consuming things, souvenirs on a journey. And it's not only things and souvenirs, but even consuming the journey as such, right? I mean, going on this or booking this travel package, Umrah dan Ziarah, is already an act of consumption, which can only be afforded by the middle class, right? And then this already means a higher class status that can be visible, or that becomes visible already. And this gets intermingled. And of course, the higher class status is always linked to being modern or feeling modern, aspirations of modernity, when it comes to this commercialized economic capitalist form of shopping, which is something else than getting things for daily needs, right? So this is not considered to be shopping, according to anthropologist Daniel Miller, for example, but shopping is really something luxurious. So the concept or category of shopping, in contrast to purchasing everyday needs for daily life, is already a modern capitalist act. And so consuming the travel package and consuming the souvenirs is a form of becoming and enhancing status of being modern. And then, of course, also of enhancing spirituality because of the pilgrimage, which is still the main purpose of the whole journey, right?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Viola, for the answer. Maybe for my other friends, if you want to ask.
I cannot hear you clearly.
Oh,
Can
sorry.
you? Okay,
Hello,
that's
can you
better.
hear? Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Viola, for the answer. Maybe for my other friends who wants to ask another question, you can open your mic or just chat on the text box.
I'm happy to receive your questions and also to get more insight from your experiences in Indonesia, of course. So I'm happy if you also want to share how you feel how what I was telling you relates to your observations in Indonesia.
Okay, yeah, for my experience, maybe there are some ziarah sites here in Indo, um, like certain tourist attractions, but only for Muslims, like certain caves, I guess, where there's like the people said that there are
Please use your mic.
oh yeah, sorry, that there are certain Islamic history behind that cave, and they will put that image into that cave so that certain Muslims will go there and have, you know, a vacation. So I think that's what happening here in Indonesia. Yeah, regarding ziarah sites.
A vacation even. That's
Yeah.
something absolutely unthinkable and impossible for the Malaysian context. And what I also know from the Indonesian case from one of my doctoral students, he said that even the grave of Sukarno now become a ziarah site. So of a political figure, right? And this is also something that is not applicable to the Malaysian context, where only the Islamic rulers, the high-ranked ustas whose biographies can be traced back to Prophet Muhammad and so on, only these get or have these so-called keramat graves which can be which are visited, but like this process of that even political, I mean also Muslim figures, that their graves can transform into a ziarah grave. This is absolutely unthinkable. So it's really interesting for me to hear.
Yeah, yeah, I just knew that this only happens here in Indo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there are more questions from my friends. Okay, the first one is from Senopati. They have a couple of several questions to ask. What are the key differences and similarities between spiritual pilgrimage and religious tourism based on your research? That's the first question. And then the second question is, how do media or digital platforms shape the
Wait.
consumption?
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh,
That was
sorry.
two differences and similarities between spiritual travel and
Between spiritual pilgrimage and tourism based on your research.
between spiritual pilgrimage and tourism.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the second question, how do media or digital platforms shape the consumption tendency?
Shape?
The consumption tendency.
I didn't understand. Can you write it in the chat, please?
Oh, okay, wait. The consumption tendency. Wait, let me put it in the text.
The consumption part, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it for the question.
Okay, thank you very much for these two questions. So the first one relates to the relationship between spiritual pilgrimage and tourism, right? And I mean, for my respondents, they say the ziyarah part that I can imagine for myself on my spiritual pilgrimage journey to Mecca can only be located either in Palestine, in Turkey, in Jordan or Dubai, because it must be somehow related to Islamic history, to Muslim history, or I mean, in Palestine, of course, with the Al-Aqsa Mosque, so it must still have this, the touristic stopover still must have this Islamic component. I mean, there are other Muslims in Malaysia, obviously, who also book the Umrah dan Ziyarah Paris or London packages, right? But this is something absolutely not applicable for my respondents, because they say then it's purely tourism only anymore. And so taking or choosing Dubai as this touristic stopover is for them more located in a gray area, maybe, so to say, because it is still absolutely touristic and modern on the one hand, but on the other, it is still located on the Arabian Peninsula, where all the stories of the Quran are playing, right? So the spirituality has to be related to both parts for them, to the pilgrimage part and to the tourism part. And so they cannot see it separated, tourism on one part and spiritual pilgrimage on the other, but the tourism as such is spiritual for them as well. And here also comes into play, as you might know, that travel plays a spiritual role in Islam as such as well, right? It's in the Quran that travel is encouraged to gain knowledge, ilmu, so the journey as such, or the touristic journey as such, is already something highly spiritual. Okay, the second question, how do media channels shape the consumption? I would say at least not like international media channels are of high relevance here for the Malaysian context, but really how the travel agencies, the local travel agencies in Malaysia, mainly in KL or Johor Bahru or Kota Bahru, how they promote their packages, and then of course how people talk about it, how important it gets to go on Umrah and even on Umrah and Ziyarah, right? It's not so much about the international media channels, about the consumption journey. It's more that the media plays a huge role when it comes to the religious aspect of it, not so much of the consumption aspect, I would say, because many of my middle-class respondents, they constantly look at media channels by Islamic scholars from the Arab world, from Al-Azhar University, from Saudi Arabia, from the United Arab Emirates universities there, to get knowledge that they locate in a more authentic and Islamically very compliant region. And so they really consume this Islamic knowledge, what the ustaz and the imam from over there, from the Arab world, teach them. So this is highly influential for them to decide or to get more and more involved into enhancing one's own spirituality as well through pilgrimage then. And this is still the main thing for them, not the consumption aspect, but really to go to the heart of the Islamic world and to to really absorb what Islamic scholars teach them from there through the international media channels.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Viola, for your answer. And next question from Audi in the column text. I would like to ask about the women. To what extent are women positioned as the target market in the context of Umrah and Ziarah travel? And how does this reflect the intersection between legacy, gender, and capitalism?
Oh, then there must be a misunderstanding, because women-only travel packages is nothing.
Okay.
To what
Maybe
extent,
Audi.
to what extent are
Maybe
women positioned as a target market in the context of Umrah and Ziarah travel, and how does this reflect the intersection between? Yeah.
Maybe yes,
for
you find like a particular strategies from the Umrah or Ziarah travel management to have the women as the target market in this
Yes.
pilgrimage business.
So first, to clarify again, it's not about women-only travel packages, but what I said is that the women are the ones who are eager to go on these Umrah and Ziarah Dubai packages as compared to men. But the men still come with them. They are also part of it, but they don't have a specific interest in it. That's what I wanted to say. And to what extent are women positioned as a target market? This is really a good question, because I didn't notice that the promotion is especially gendered in some sense, so that they, for example, advertise the Umrah and Ziarah packages with abayas for the women or something like that. But it's really something out of the women themselves. It's their agency. And Dr. Ismi, this is the keyword you brought at the beginning, right? Agency and Sabah Mahmoud's concept of being a pious but very agent woman, right? That it's really out of their decision and their will to organize within the family as a couple. Hey, we want to go on Umrah together, right? So this is for both genders. But please, I want to have this extra stopover in Dubai. This is really an interesting question, because I never come across any advertisement or anything that targeted especially women. But I know that the travel agents, of course, they are very aware of the women being those who choose these packages. So maybe at least when they have their personal conversation, when they meet at the travel agency to book the package there, maybe then there can be hints by the travel agent towards the women as a target market, but at least not in the promotion that I can see.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Maybe in Indonesia, the travel agent or travel pilgrimage business is more targeting to family, Muslim family, because we have like a special list for everyone who wants to take a Hajj or Umrah. So yeah, if you are a worker, or yes, in Indonesia, if you are a worker or if you are a student, you have a permit to go to Hajj or Umrah with a special leave. So yeah, I think it is a very, very chance to the travel agent or travel pilgrimage business targeting the whole family to go to the Mecca together.
It's
Yes,
interesting.
maybe yeah, if
And this
I
is
reflect
different.
in Indonesia context. Yes.
In Malaysia,
Okay.
the families, they always have to wait for the public school holidays anyway. so they don't get extra free time, for example.
It's no need to wait in here. You can just take a note and leave have a special leave from your boss or your teacher in here. Okay. There's another question from Afifa. Okay, maybe I will wrap up the question. Okay. In Indonesia, there is a widespread expectation that returning Umrah or Hajj bring back the souvenirs such as perfumes or religious garments like abaya or gamis. These practices are often seen as acts of religious devotion, but they are also strongly shaped by social expectation and, in some cases, even a sense of obligation. This makes me wonder what extent do such consumer practices, especially influenced by social norms, reshape the spiritual meaning of the pilgrimage. And from this perspective, how can we distinguish between consumption as a form of religious expression and consumption as a reflection of lifestyle or social status?
Thank you very much. Yeah, in fact, the religious obligation or to feel obliged to bring souvenirs back, right? This is also applicable to the Malaysian context, and I could observe that it very much, for example, it depends on, or one step back, before the people go on Umrah, they get, for example, money from relatives or friends for their journey. And when they enter Dubai then for their shopping activities, then it was like, okay, how much money did I get from this person? How much did I get from that? Oh, and the higher the amount of money I got in advance for my journey, the bigger, the larger, and the more precious the souvenir must be at the end, right? So I remember a couple they said, it's Kawan China, our Chinese friend, who gave us 100 ringgit. So he got the most beautiful souvenir. And it was obviously an obligation, and not only an obligation as such, but even it has nuances. It was like different levels of how high the obligation was and how precious the souvenir will be at the end for those to bring back the souvenirs. And of course, then another aspect was that the very close relatives will also get the more expensive ones, for example. So it depended on who gave them how much in advance for their journey themselves. And the second aspect was, how close do the pilgrims feel to the people they want to bring back something? So definitely this kind of obligation was there as well. The second question, how can we distinguish between consumption as a form of religious expression and consumption as a reflection of lifestyle or social status? We always have to look at also what anthropologist Johann Fischer already was writing about. We always have to look at how the consumption looks like. For example, Johann Fischer wrote this influential book, Proper Islamic Consumption, maybe you know it. And it's important, for example, that consumption is nothing too excessive, just too luxury, excessively consuming, shopping here and there, then it's not Islamic anymore. But it must be, it must comply to only to really think about what do I shop and for whom, and to still be humble and pious. If it's too excessive, then then it is a reflection of lifestyle maybe. And but if it complies with Islamic principles, like the niyat is the intention is good and so on, then consumption can be religiously related. So it always depends on the inner stance of the person. How does the person how does the person do and practice consumption? With which intentions? What do they shop? And so it's nothing that we can see from the outside, whether we can classify consumption as religious expression or whether we can classify consumption as a lifestyle only. We have to know how the person really perceives what the person is doing while shopping.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Viola. Yes, maybe in the special context in Indonesia, the people believe that the souvenirs from Hajj, like Zam-Zam water or dates
Yes.
or perfume, is like have some blessings. So yeah, maybe like a Zam-Zam water is like can curing the sickness. Yeah, people in Indonesia believe of that. So I think it is like souvenirs is like a giving souvenirs is like the gift from most concept. I think there is a reciprocity. So from the giver, it is a part of escalating their status, but from the recipient point of view, it is like a get a blessing for someone who have a privilege to go to Umrah and Hajj, which is nowadays is very difficult to achieve. Yeah, and yeah, I think it is a very special context in Indonesia about the buah tangan gitu, or giving the souvenirs. Yeah, it's more than the giving. I think it is like a blessing or hoping that you can go to Umrah or Hajj someday.
Yeah. What I mean is, when I say it's religiously related, then it is about gaining the pahala, the rewards for the afterlife, right? For Day of Judgment, Hari Akhirah, or even also getting, inviting the barakah, the blessing. So it's not only about the person who receives maybe the kurma and the Zamzam water to get blessing through this, but also the one who gives it can invite the barakah. But as I said, it depends on certain criteria, right? And nobody knows whether Allah will grant it or not, of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yes, because we have a limit of time, maybe one more question from Nabila. Yeah. I'm curious about in the context of globalization and commodified pilgrimage, how do sacred and profane boundaries blur, like in Umrah and Ziarah Dubai, where worship meets leisure? Can abaya boutiques be seen as new pilgrimage sites? And is it still possible to define the sacred without considering spaces of consumption?
Oh, thanks for this question. I love all your questions. They are very theoretically grounded. I can observe now. All your questions are very well formulated. Can the abaya boutiques be seen as new pilgrimage sites? And is it still possible to define the sacred without considering spaces of consumption? Well, for the Malaysian context, I must say nobody would never use the term pilgrimage here for consumption sites, for abayas, shops, and so on. As far as I know, this is different in Indonesia, but in Malaysia, the English translation of pilgrimage is only used for the Hajj. And it's not even used for Umrah. And so this is always my approaching translation or our approaching translation, right? And they even, I mean, the term pilgrimage comes from a Christian context, actually, in where when during nation state building like 300 years ago, when it developed that the sacred and the profane worlds got separated, right, through the church. And this is the context where the English terms religion and the English term pilgrimage derives from, where really this got separated. And this is really not applicable to the Malaysian context, because to think about these separate spheres, thinking it as such, as separate, doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense at all, right? And this is something I find very interesting. And this is why, at least from the EMIC viewpoint, from my interviewees, respondents' viewpoint, they wouldn't use the term pilgrimage sites for these abaya shops here. And I also, from my ethic viewpoint, wouldn't term it as such, because pilgrimage still has to relate to Islamic historical roots and so on, where the site where the site is located, and that's not applicable to a shopping place. Yeah, but it's really a food for thought to think about it more deeply. Thank you very, very much for all these questions. And yeah, they are very theoretically grounded. I'm happy to be part of your class today.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Viola. So yes, we have to close the Q&A equation because the limit of time. So maybe, Dr. Viola, you have some closing statements.
I have some
Closing statements.
Closing statements. I really, really want to thank you, Dr. Ismi, Dr. Adiro, and also Fadila, for really having me, for moderating this session. It was such a pleasure for me to be with you. And as I said, I really look forward to thinking through your questions again after this, and maybe would be nice to visit you at some point in Indonesia in person, and that we can continue the conversation in person and not online anymore. And I'm happy to hear or to read also more about comparisons between Indonesian and Malaysian practices. It was wonderful being part of your class. Thank you very much, Dr. Ismi, for inviting me.
Yes, Dr. Viola, thank you so much for the valuable presentation. We are very lucky to have been able to invite you, and hopefully we can collaborate, and you can come directly in person to Diponegoro University to Central Java, Indonesia. Yes, yeah, we will wait for you in here. So yes, we have to close this visiting professor. So Fadia, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fiola, for enriching our knowledge on the interrelation between spiritual pilgrimage and tourism. Now, as we come to the end of today's event, on behalf of the Department of Social Anthropology at Diponegoro University, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Tim, and thank you as well to our moderator, Mbak Ismi, and all participants for making this event a success. But before we go, um, let's do the documentation for today's lecture. So for all participants, please turn on your camera.
It's nice to see more faces now. Hello.
Yeah.
Wonderful. happy to see you all. What a huge class, huge group of people.
Okay, you can open your cameras if you haven't. Guys, kalau nggak buka kameranya dianggap nggak hadir ya. Okay, give us your best smile. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, another one. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, thank you everyone for your cooperation. We hope today's session has provided valuable insights and inspiration for all of us. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in our future academic programs. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good afternoon and evening.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you. You
everyone.
too.
Thank you, Dr. Viola. See you in Indonesia.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Jumpa lagi.
Iya, sampai jumpa. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.